One of the other ones that we received, which I thought was a great question, is how do you make sure you manage your tax responsibilities or liabilities properly? That's always a concern with investing, and that's a great question. I have to say this. It sounds a little bit like a cop-out, but I have to say it. You always want to talk to a tax professional. We are not tax professionals. We're well-versed. I'm very well-versed in the tax liabilities and issues that go with that, but I'm not a tax expert. We use tax experts, CPAs, who understand that in depth. That's what they do day to day. And so you always want to be able to do that, you should always have a good CPA. That's an important part.
And the tax laws change constantly.
Yes.
So what may be the law today may be different tomorrow, depending on the political atmosphere and what they're trying to do with the economy.
Yeah. And the thing I can say with that, that is important, is when you're talking about tax liabilities, one of the things that you want to make sure you do are what we call qualified plans. So a qualified plan is an RIA. A Roth is different because you're paying your tax now, so it's different. But when you talk about tax efficiency and managing that, 401ks, because what you're doing is the money you invest in that does not get taxed in the year that you invest that in. And that's a great break that the IRS, the government, gives us to help us build our retirement. Because contrary to what people may think, the government doesn't want you to have to rely on them in retirement. So they give us opportunities. So if you get a Roth or a 457 or not a Roth, an IRA, a 457, a 401k, there's just a plethora of different plans. Whenever you can invest in a tax benefit like that, when you're putting that in, you're doing that pre-tax dollars. That's always a good break. So while we can't really get into the tax information because each investment is very different. The one thing we can say broadly, if you're an individual and you go to invest like we were talking about earlier, and you get on a platform, open an IRA, because let's say that you, and I'm going to use these very generically, so please understand it's just an illustration, but if you had $50,000 that you make a year and you're going to get taxed on that $50,000, if you put 5 of that in an IRA, you're only going to be taxed on $45. Now that's in a very generic way. There's other things that play into it, but that money that you invest, you would have paid some level of tax on. So it gives you a really good benefit to get into some type of qualified plan, an IRA, a 401k, whatever you have available to you. And those are great benefits for us as an investing public.
You know, I think it's so important, the point you made about Social Security was never intended to be a retirement fund. Right. It was to cover the basics so that you could invest. And in the early days after World War II, when there was such a demand on labor because there was such a growth environment, people were coming back and they were building houses and they were getting married and having children. So there's a lot of demand on it. And so that's when unions were formed as a way to balance that. And then they came up with pensions. Well, pensions are no longer much in existence. That was when you were guaranteed an income if you stayed with a company long enough. So they took the responsibility of retiring you for your loyalty. Now the government says, no, you have to take responsibility. We will give you tax benefits to take advantage of those. But now we still think sometimes mentally that our Social Security is our pension. It is not our pension.
No, it's not. It's a very small pension at best. And that's not something that you want to rely on its totality. And that's why we think investing is so important. We try to get people as early as we can because it makes such a huge impact. I hope that you will continue to send in your questions. They mean a lot to us because we can talk about a lot of things, but what we really want to do is find out what's important to you, the level of understanding, the questions that you have, so hopefully that we can add value to your investment knowledge and that you can increase and grow in that and stay curious and read as much as you can, get as much information. But when you have a question, please feel free to just send that in to us. Send those questions in because we really do enjoy them, and answering them helps us to make sure that we're being relevant and pertinent to you.